basically what we got going on today is a special treat. This is the way I learned to bass fish. You know, fishing in ponds, small lakes, you know. There are a lot of people out there that don't have a boat, you know, and they spend their time backpacking around and fishing in creeks and small bodies of water. And you know, it's a funny thing, the first bass I can ever remember catching, I caught on a Zebco 33 with a chartreuse spinnerbait. And it was about a 2.5 pounder, and I remember how vividly, still in my mind, how that thing fought. You know, a small body of water like we have here, this is more accessible to more people than big bodies of water. And you know, fishing from the bank, it's just as fun as fishing in a boat. You know, one thing to think about when you are fishing around and fishing small bodies of water or smaller lures. You know, typically, especially pond bass, you know, the forage base is stuff that lives around the pond, little minnows, bluegill. I just caught that one on a shaky head. You know, it's a funny thing, like right at my house in Gonzales, there's you know, roughly about a 30-acre lake at Lamar Dixon, and the fishing is really good there. And I go over there with Luke and Sarah, and I take a wacky worm and just walk around the pond and, you know, and really catch them. But always I like small baits better, you know, when you're pond fishing like this, you know, I'm gonna throw a shaky head, like little crankbaits, little spinner baits, little buzz baits, a frog. Just depends on what kind of pond, you know, you got to fish in, or small lake. And you know, that's the cool thing about pond fishing, using light tackle. You know, even a small bass is fun. But like I said, just a good rule to remember is that you want to get more bites fishing on a small body of water. Smaller lures will get bites, and you know, that's the thing about it. These small lures will catch a big bass too. They won't just catch a little bass. But honestly, a plastic worm is the most universal bass lure to ever be made. It doesn't matter if you're in New York, Louisiana, or where you are. And you know, basically this is just a jig head. That's an 1/8 ounce jig head with a hook. And I'm Texas rigging with the jig head. So I come down just like you would with a worm hook, pop the hook out, and then spin the head. And there you go. And the cool thing about using that jig head eliminates, you know, I got my weight, my hook, everything right there together. And a lot of times you'll find that, you know, there are a lot of ponds around the country, the water's clear like it is here, and it just, something about that little worm, you know, it's cold this morning and they just can't resist that little worm. And you know, the other thing is, not a better way to get a young person into fishing than fishing on the pond. There are days out there in that boat of sitting all day that you can burn a kid out. Sometimes you catch them out in the middle, you know, depending on the time of the year, and then sometimes you just throw right down, you know, you parallel the banks. I mean, it's just fun fishing, but it's just always a good rule of thumb. A plastic worm, a floating minnow style bait, a topwater bait, and like I said, a spinner bait, you know, especially if you fishing in ponds that have colored water. Pond bass love a spinner bait. And you never know what you're gonna catch in a pond. I mean, a little sac-a-lay. And it's good not to let your pond get overpopulated with these. Big bass. Oh yeah, I got them schooling now. You know, I'm not against using live bait in the pond either. I have been known to catch a little bluegill, which is like the prime forage for bass. Oh. I'm not sure what that was, but it was mean. I mean, it was mean. And the cool thing about ponds, you know, catfish, sac-a-lay, bluegill, catfish, more catfish. In Louisiana, we have a very unique fish called a shoe pick that also likes to frequent some of these small bodies of water. That's a trophy. You catch a shoe pick.
Bowie Outfitters is your one-stop shop for all types of outdoor cooking. Tailgating? We've got Bayou Classic barbecue pits and King Cooker jambalaya pots. If frying's your favorite, check out R&V Works Cajun fryers and Cajun injector products to keep meat moist and flavorful. Black iron skillets are key in a southern kitchen, and Bowie carries a big selection of Lodge cast iron, plus Bayou Classic pots for your next crawfish boil. Come to Bowie Outfitters and let us get you cooking. Bowie Outfitters, everything outdoors.
It's at 4 a.m., driven by an overwhelming passion. We're driven by the beasts that roam the waters of this great country. We don't think about stress, or bills, or Monday. We're fishermen, always ready. And as for the gear we hold, trust is everything. Never again should you sacrifice strength for style. The Team Lose Pro TI Speed Spool. Built for anything you set the hook on.
I've been making my living with Strike King products for a long time. So when they showed me the new Tour Grade line, I was all in. I knew I could trust it. What I didn't know was how easy it was to use. With the spooling tool and the prepaid envelope to recycle your old line included in every single box. Not only is it the best line on the market, it gives you the easiest fishing experience possible. Find out more at StrikeKing.com.
As Sportsman, we seek out the very best craftsmanship in many aspects of what we do. We take great pride in the work we put in because we want the very best results possible. Those same philosophies are how we do things at Smith Shanklin Sosa Law Firm. We craft each case to the individual needs of our client, and we take pride in our work to protect your rights. To schedule a free consultation, just give us a call at 225-223-6333.
You know, one thing that you have to be careful if you own your own pond, and you know, a lot of people have their own lake, or you know, they buy a piece of property and they build a half acre to, you know, I think like the one we're fishing today is like maybe 8 acres, you know, which is big. It's like basically they're not ponds, they're small lakes. But one thing that happens in a pond is you have to manage it, almost like, you know, managing cattle. That you know, fish are very prolific, and you take a lake this size. I've heard the numbers, they're insane, but like 1 3-pound largemouth bass will have like 300 babies. So realistically, if you think about that, one fish spawning in this pond will completely repopulate it again. So, you know, I've fished in ponds before where you just catch tons and tons of little ones where they've not been kept. So it's good, and you know, it's good to get with a local biologist. Or, you know, there are pond managers out there, you know, people that are experts that you can call. They, you know, they even go to the point where, depending on how your finances are, I mean, they'll come out and shock your lake and tell you how many pounds you need to take out. And, you know, there's people out there that have numbers for that, exactly what you should do to keep a pond in check. And, you know, bass are predators. They don't know to stop eating. So when you have a lot of bass in a pond, or a lot of catfish or sac-a-lait, they're all predator fish. So it takes a lot of forage for them. So just like this pond, you know, you can tell it has a huge fish population. And with these smaller fish, they're very good table fare. And again, I feel like when you're keeping a few of them out, you're helping the resource, you're helping the fish that are left, you know, to have more to eat. Wow, he's almost too big to swing. Ooh. You know, this is the deal. This is a pretty fish. This is definitely the size fish that you want to catch and you want to keep in your pond. So by taking those smaller fish out, you're just giving this fish a chance to grow and get bigger. But man, just a beautiful bass. And that's the cool thing about little baits on ponds. You catch big bass with little baits. Now that's the fun thing about light tackle. You just get such a fight out of, it's just, I guess you'd say I've aged like a fine wine. But my love for fishing is as strong as it ever was. And I do have a nice rig sitting there too if I need to go to the bigger pond. But basically set up, this is my little all-purpose spinning rod, 610. You don't need I just don't find a need for having an extremely long spinning rod. Some 8-pound test, a Lew's Custom Pro spinning reel. And this setup, I can throw little crankbaits, little buzz baits, worms. Really, honestly, for pond fishing, a shaky head and a wacky rig. And basically all the wacky rig is, especially if these fish are spawning and right up on the bank, is just I'd be hooking that worm in the middle. But it's a little colder and these fish are down on the bottom, and that shaky head's hard to beat. And again, you throw that by a 6-pounder, he will bite it.